You know that feeling when you grab a cheap 15-inch laptop on sale, only to find it chokes on a single browser tab, the keyboard rattles, and the screen looks like a cheap tablet? It's a regret that haunts a lot of first-time buyers, especially when they're trying to stretch a budget and end up with a machine that barely handles everyday tasks. The question is whether the HP 17.3-inch business laptop feels like a smarter buy or just another oversized compromise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at 17-inch laptops, the biggest hurdle was figuring out if the size was worth the trade-offs. A bigger screen is great for spreadsheets, design work, or even the occasional gaming session, but it usually means a bulkier chassis, a heavier weight, and a battery that drains faster. My own hesitation was practical. I needed a machine that could replace a desktop for long workdays, handle a few light games, and still be portable enough to carry to a coworker's desk or a coffee shop. That's why I dug into the specs, read the official HP description, and scoured forums for real-world impressions before hitting record. First off, the heart of this laptop is the 13th Gen Intel i5-1334U, a chip that can boost up to 4.6 GHz. On paper it promises solid single-core performance, which matters for most Office apps and web browsing. In practice, I ran a few typical workloads: multiple Office tabs, a Chrome window with 20 extensions, and a background video conference. The laptop kept up without noticeable lag, and the boost clock kicked in smoothly when I opened a large Excel file. For anyone whose day revolves around spreadsheets, presentations, or even light photo editing, that responsiveness is a genuine plus. Memory and storage are where the HP tries to set itself apart. With 16 GB of RAM and a 512 GB SSD, you have plenty of headroom for multitasking. I tested this by launching a virtual machine, streaming a 4K video, and running a basic game, a 2017 indie title, simultaneously. The system stayed snappy, and there were no sudden slowdowns or stutters. If you're the type that runs multiple IDEs, keeps a few browser profiles open, or needs space for large project files, the 16 GB per 512 GB combo feels future-proof, especially compared to many budget 15-inch laptops that still ship with 8 GB and a 256 GB drive. Now, the 17.3-inch Full HD display is the most noticeable upgrade over typical Ultrabooks. The panel offers a comfortable 1920x1080 resolution, which, at that size, gives you a decent amount of screen real estate without the text becoming microscopic. I spent a good portion of the day working on a PowerPoint deck with high-resolution images, and the colors were vibrant enough for a quick visual impact, though the panel is not calibrated for professional color work. The display also handles casual gaming reasonably well. The larger size makes the experience more immersive than a cramped 13-inch screen, but you'll still notice the modest 60 Hz refresh rate when you move fast in a shooter. So, if you enjoy occasional gaming or need the extra workspace for coding and design, the screen is a clear win. Heat and fan noise can be a deal-breaker for many laptop buyers, especially in a chassis that's already pushing the limits of size. Under load, say, a stress test with Prime 95, the HP's cooling system kicked in, and the fans rose to an audible hum. The temperature on the keyboard area hovered around 85 C, which is warm but not uncomfortable for short bursts. In quieter environments like a library, the fan noise becomes noticeable after about half an hour of sustained work, but it never reaches the high-pitched whine you hear on some thin gaming laptops. For most professionals who work in office settings or at home, that level of noise is tolerable, but if you need near silence for recording voiceovers, you might want to consider a laptop with a more refined cooling solution. Battery life is where the large screen and the desktop-class internals bite back. HP advertises optimized for long session durability, yet in my real-world test a mix of document editing, video streaming, and occasional gaming, the battery lasted about 4.5 hours before needing a recharge. That's acceptable if you plan to stay near a power outlet most of the day, but it falls short of the 8+ hours you'd expect from a 13-inch Ultrabook. The takeaway is simple: this machine is built to replace a desktop workstation, not to be a travel companion for long flights. Portability is another angle that often trips people up. The chassis measures roughly 19 millimeters thick and weighs close to 2.8 kilograms, about 6.2 pounds. It's definitely heavier than a typical 15-inch laptop, and fitting it into a standard backpack can feel cramped. If your daily routine involves commuting by train or carrying the laptop into meeting rooms, you'll need to plan for that extra weight. However, for users whose primary location is a fixed desk or who are okay with a larger bag, the size isn't a major hindrance. Who should buy this HP 17.3-inch business laptop? In my view, it's an ideal fit for three main groups. First, remote professionals.